It has suddenly arrived and it's spreading like a devastating fire over the whole planet. New coronavirus has almost propagated in more than 3 million people and has killed more than 200,000. The number of infected and victims increases exponentially day after day and doesn't seem to decrease. This story, which seems to be a science fiction movie which we have already seen, started on December 31st of 2019. Health authorities of Wuhan city, capital of the province of Hubei in China, with almost 11 million inhabitants, discovered the first cases of some patients who show symptoms of an unknown cause pneumonia. As the protocol says, the Chinese authorities communicate what happened to the World Health Organization. Thanks to the investigations conducted by the Chinese specialists, this first group of sick people was in some way linked to the local fish market in the city of Wuhan, consisting of nearly 1,000 stands in which animals are sold. Chickens, pheasants, bats, groundhogs, snakes, as well as other jungle animals. It was immediately assumed that it has a new strain of coronavirus from an animal source, defined by experts as a process of zoonosis. Recently, it has been confirmed that the origin comes from a bat. The discovery, although it's important, is not enough to find a vaccine, because another animal has served as an intermediary and allowed the virus to get the necessary receivers to reach the gate of access to the human organism and, in fact, make it give the jump species. The strain responsible for the pandemic has been identified in the first days of January 2020 and defined as SARS-CoV-2 or new coronavirus of Wuhan, and its genome has been published on January 10th. When on January 29th the United Nations declared the discovery of the virus as a global emergency, it had already spread it in all 31 provinces of China and in more than 25 nations in Asia, Europe and North America. On March 11, the United Nations declared that the disease COVID-19 had achieved the pandemic dimension. Unfortunately, the situation was already out of control and the most tried countries under China were in the European continent, Italy and Spain, while in North America, the United States became the main worldwide focus by number of infected. Until today, more than 2 million people have been infected and there are more than 150,000 deaths throughout the planet. The contagious proportion is 1 to 3. From each person infected, there will be at least 3 more, from an optimistic point of view. In this catastrophic situation where the economic system stops, where the social situation has been completely hardened by the isolation that so far it seems to be the only available weapon, the main global political authorities and the international scientific community are seeking to understand how the coronavirus disease was born in order to find a vaccine as soon as possible. Maybe the main question to ask ourselves is not how, but why the COVID-19 appeared. What is the cause of its purpose? The Earth today is a sort of hell, with more than 72 planetary emergencies already confirmed by the United Nations, and the international scientific community, throughout some sterile tentatives, has always searched to attenuate the effects instead of healing the causes. Same thing is happening with the COVID-19 pandemic. Nothing changed, even though the man has been warned other times. The AIDS virus epidemic, with another 35 million victims in 1981, in 2002 the SRS pandemic, or the acute serious respiratory syndrome, with 770,000 victims, in 2009 the H1N1 swine flu with 200,000 victims, in 2012 the MERS respiratory syndrome of the Middle East with 850,000 victims, in 2014 the Ebola virus pandemic with more than 11,000 victims in the African continent, and still in progress. Coincidence? Maybe they are only normal causal effects or natural evolution, or maybe the planet is trying to tell us something. What is the message that it's trying to transmit? In 1981, the contact of the celestial powers Eugenio Siragusa on behalf of the scientist biocosmologist O'Hara gives two announcements.
O'Hara explains. First part. The atmospheric tissue of your planet is saturated with destabilizing vibrations. The impurity of the main elements that instructs the structural harmony of everything that lives on the surface of the Earth causes serious decompensations in the evolutionary process of the species. The abnormal behavior of the basic values of life brings harmful imbalances and very deleterious frequencies to the genetic order of what should be destined to serve the cosmic evolution. As we already mentioned, there is an indissoluble relation between elements and biopsychic development, for which a biopsychical evolutive harmonization is not possible without the perfect balance of the primary and normal elements. Detaching the existence of the primary values is to kill the existence, the survival. The anomalies of the primary values creates incompatibility, destabilization, and therefore the rejection of life. If your science knows that and is not preparing to prevent it from reaching the hyper-chaotic point, the humanity of your planet is destined to a serious, irreparable collapse. O'Hara greeting. Nicolosi, March 23, 1981, 9:15 a.m. O'Hara explains. Second part. The bacterial universe, which is also linked to the stable and harmonious operation of the elements that structure the evolutionary process of species, mineral, vegetable, animal, experiences significant negative alterations, substantially modifying dynamisms by proposing abnormal behaviors. The contamination of the primary elements, air, water, earth, in the bacterial universe causes dystonic, unfavorable activity for normal evolutionary operation. The bacterial universe is a component that should be taken in serious consideration if you want to avoid the aggressiveness that these can exercise when their dynamism become abnormal with hypertrophic, violent and destructive dynamism. The bacterial universe influences in a notorious way. You are victims of this influence or directly or by symbiosis. O'Hara greeting. Nicolosi, March 23, 1981, 11:45 a.m.
So, is there a clear relationship between this cosmic cell planet Earth and mankind? As Eugenio Siragusa transmitted many times, mankind has a clear role of being the transforming element and catalyst of the three lower kingdoms, animal, vegetable, and mineral. He is not another thing than an enzyme inside this macrocosmic cell, the planet Earth. This function, developed by such enzymes, is no more compatible with the normal evolution of the creative economy, and it's going against all its universal laws. Like in any evolutionary organism, when a virus or bacteria comes in contact with its cells, their immunological system, constituted by its antibodies, is instantly activated. Isn't that the same case for planet Earth? Due to its irresponsible and dementia behavior, hasn't the man virus forced the organism of this celestial body to activate its immunological system? Since the outbreak of the pandemic, the most struck countries by COVID-19 belong to the North Hemisphere of the planet, where the main multinational and economic political powers that have ruined the planet with their actions are. The main last epidemics have been born in China, the main benefactor of industrial economic development of globalization. In the Chinese province of Hubei and throughout the Chinese nation, where the national standards regulating environmental poisoning are few, after the complete stop of economic activity as a result of social isolation, the emissions of nitrogen have decreased between January and February about at 25%. After the beginning of the brush slowdown of economic activity at the global level, the NASA has found a decrease in the ozone hole of 20% in the Antarctic zone. Italy has until today more than 24,000 victims. In that country, the European Space Lens has received the 25% decrease of nitrogen in the Pandana Plain area from a meteorological satellite. This circumstance also confirms a BBC analysis that has crossed the Columbia University data with other studies compiled in the last days, and has revealed that carbon monoxide emitted mainly by machines has decreased near 50% in the United States, by the average of 35% on the global scale. On April 1st, Father Mayaki Benedict writes an article in the Vatican News, Coronavirus, the unexpected ally of the Earth. The thesis of the Jesuit priest who regularly follows the news according to which animals have been, in the times of emergency, restrictive measures for man, returning to those habitats from which they have been removed. Migratory birds, including swans, have been sighted through the city water currents. The article therefore continues with considerations even on the climate and about poisoning in times of coronavirus. There are many satellite pictures that demonstrate how air quality has improved and carbon and pollutant emissions have been dramatically reduced, not only in China but also everywhere in the most striked areas. This is a background to a vision that continues to talk about itself, because this article has been removed from the Holy See website, obviously because it is considered uncomfortable. Maybe coincidence, or maybe clear signs that this apocalyptic scene has a clear meaning. So is it wrong to define COVID-19 as the last Earth antibody against the man virus? According to the Eugenio Siragusa Studies Center, is not a coincidence. This is how the Celestial Powers contactee says, on behalf of the extraterrestrial Hoara in 1984.
Hoara explains, man belongs to the viral universe. In the dimension in which he lives and develops, he isn't different from all the other viruses that initially proved to be such as they are. The difference between the virus man and all the others consists in the genetic inheritance that he carries with him, because it was transmitted from his primates, who were treated, processed, elaborated in order to develop an ideal instrument to host individual intelligence, or better say, the astral divine intelligence. Long time ago, abnormalities have been verified due to the environmental factors that were not favorable for positive evolution of the treatment received. The current hereditary deformations in everything that breaks down the natural balances of the virus man reflect tragically, as well as on the species and also on the elements from which he brings lymph and dynamism of development. The virus man tends always more to violate himself, because he is dystonic, because he is contaminated with negative influences, because he is forced to appropriate of what is transmitted to him by cynical unconsciousness. To repair, it's always our advice. Hoara greets, Nicolosi, November 18th, 1984.
It's not a mystery that infectology and virology specialists have confirmed the concerns of many environmentalists, WWF, and other non-governmental organizations. Many of the epidemics and pandemics of the last decades have been generated by climate change due to atmospheric poisoning, deforestation, and increasing population density in the cities. It is clear that the mankind has been invading areas that are no more of his belonging, and it's violating all ecosystems in a considerable way.
From heaven to earth, a shock therapy practiced by cosmic geniuses to prevent that the virus man in the degenerative phase could put into difficulty the cosmophysical and cosmodynamic harmony of the macrocosmic beings. Let's talk a while. Who doesn't know it yet, it's good that finally understands that man is part of the viral universe. And it's also true, certain and real that he has had the privilege of having been placed at the pyramidal top of all the other species operating in the cosmophysical and cosmodynamic economy of the planet Earth. He has been prepared by the astral geniuses, magnificent engineers of solar genetics, to make him as much as possible in the image and likeness of the Creator. It happened before, and it's repeating now in Earth. There is a voluntary rejection of its functional prerogatives, proposing a series of dystonia that waken and shake the fundamental structures of the balances that govern the cosmophysical and cosmodynamic life of the macrocosmic being, planet Earth. The shock therapy already shown by the cosmic geniuses has the main aim of not allowing the virus man with its degenerated and violent strength to kill the life of the planet and then put into difficulty the macrocosmic communication that is identified in the solar system. For example, the antibodies of the man virus opposes to the cholera virus or other viruses degenerating a favorable habitat and making it aggressive and violent. The same thing is for those macrocosmic beings who also have the imperious dream of self-defense. So it seems that the shock therapy of the cosmic geniuses tries mainly to avoid that the deep groove of incompatibility between the virus man and its creator does not reach the hyper-chaotic point. If, then, the stubborn and cowardly challenge of the human species to the desires of the glorious creator should take place, then a radical selection and therefore a new grafting will become inevitable. Chronicle. A professor in biology has been asked, according to you, should cholera virus live or die? The teacher, without a doubt for a single moment, answers, it must die. As a result, these lords have asked him, tell us now, Professor, the man, why should he live? Comments are up to you, dear friends, the friend of man. Eugenio Siragusa, Nicolosi, August 25, 1986.
Regarding to what is said about all the conspiracy theories that this new virus could be a new bacteriological weapon created by man in order to reduce the world population by following the New World Order methodology, Eugenio Siragusa Study Center does not confirm any of them. If COVID-19 was truly a bacteriological weapon created by the most powerful countries on Earth, then why would the infection also extend to those countries that should have created viruses? Let's remember that Europe and North America are continents with the nations most struck by the pandemic and are suffering inconceivable damage to their economic system. If it was a premeditated plan to create a bacteriological weapon, a hidden saving vaccine should have already appeared by any multinational member of a superpower and should get a clear geo-economical advantage. But there is no possible cure and victims continue to increase and the infection seems almost unstoppable. Man has not controlled the virus universe because it is extremely intelligent and adapts every time to a possible change to remain with life and try to fight with what appears to be the true planetary virus, mankind.
I'd like to share a revelation that I've had during my time here. It came to me when I tried to classify your species. I realized that you're not actually mammals. Every mammal on this planet instinctively develops a natural equilibrium with the surrounding environment, but you humans do not. You move to an area and you multiply, and multiply until every natural resource is consumed. And the only way you can survive is to spread to another area. There is another organism on this planet that follows the same pattern. Do you know what it is? A virus. Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You are a plague.
We have been advised many times, but we didn't listen. We are not prepared and will pay the consequences in full respect of the universal cause-effect law. It is only in us to be aware, determining to get the values of discernment, a four-dimensional value that allows to anticipate the effects by curing the causes. It is only in us to understand that humanity will be able to get out of this crisis only if we remain united as a single people, without a destruction of ethnic races or religions. Only if we are united and in solidarity with each other will be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. The heavenly powers through Eugenio Siragusa have communicated the danger we are running more than 30 years ago. Then it is in us to act. What has been planned has produced harmful fruits, but hope is the last thing to die. The choice, as always, is only ours.